Hello everyone, Low for Machines here, and today is my 1 year anniversary of this channel. But if we were talking about my entire, time on YouTube making videos, it's about my 2nd year anniversary. But we'll get more into that later. Because right now I just want to thank everyone who has subscribed and watched and liked my videos. As I'm pretty happy with how far I got. And honestly, I'm pretty happy about it. I don't know what else I can say besides I'm grateful and I am happy that you support me with my videos and series and whatnot. And basically, to thank all of you, I decided to maybe give you a little history lesson on my entire YouTube history, uh, so that you now know, instead of doing a Q&A and answering the same question 30 times, like what's your favorite color, and then the next one's gonna be what's your favorite color, I'm just gonna give you, the basics on Love for Machines and how I got started and whatnot. And it's actually, I feel like a pretty interesting story. Uh, so yeah, I guess we can start off with how I got into Thomas and Friends. And it's actually a pretty interesting story, as uh, I was at Walmart. For those of you who don't know, it's a store in America with basically stuff that are usually on discounts. Like if you go to like a different store that's maybe $10, at Walmart it might be $8, something like that. And I think its logo would save more, live better. I think it's something like that. But anyway, I went to there and I'm looking through all the toys and I see this DVD and I'm looking at it and I'm really confused about it because it looks so weird, like a train with a face. Like who thought about that? And the DVD I remember distinctly was Calling All Engines. So I picked it up, went home, watched it, and basically I fell in love with the series. So yes, I actually didn't watch the series on PBS Kids or something like that. I bought a DVD and watched it on there, and it was a pretty bad movie. Now I'm looking back on it, but I still have nostalgic memories of it, so that's why it has a soft place in my heart. So that's what happened, and then later I find out that they're actually toys. As you see, this is my childhood Thomas here. Although I did have a take along Thomas that's even older, but I don't know where it went. It kind of disappeared. But I think the first line I got into was Take and Play, or Take Along at the time. However, I got some Trackmaster, which I thought was also cool because there were battery trains. And if you don't know, there's a YouTube friend of mine who's all about Trackmaster, but I'll get into him a bit later as well. And basically, I got into Take Along, which became Take and Play, which I didn't care because it was the same thing with just a different name. Uh, but I always wanted to get into Wooden Railway. However, it was so expensive, like $20 for a train, where I can buy like two trains from Trackmaster and Take and Play. So I decided not to go on that route. But of course, after a while, I got bored of Thomas and Friends, especially after they switched from models to CGI. That was when I kind of grew out of Thomas, and from there I just stopped buying and watching the show for a couple seasons, and I got more into Transformers and Lego and whatnot. And then let's skip forward years later, and it's 2016. I think it's about when I got my first YouTube account, which was named. Honestly, I don't even remember. It's been so long, or it's been 2, 3 years. But I think it was like Game Prime or something like that. And basically, I think my first video on that channel was like a Minecraft video, but it soon became about Legos. Like I had this one series, I think it was my first ever series on YouTube. I think it was called Lego Channel 1000 News, and it was just about these three Lego figures who did news, but it would be really weird, like they interview Batman and whatnot. And yeah, uh, that was when I got into stop motion as well, so I started doing stop motion and whatnot. And then my first ever big series was actually something called Bionicle the Others, which most of you probably don't know, but there's a handful of you who might remember that series from a long time ago. And basically, it was about these two mechanical beings who went on adventures and whatnot. And I actually still have these two figures. This one right here is Lee-Ha, and then this one right here is Iron Guy, although he has gotten into some changes over the years. But yeah, this was probably my longest ever running series, spanning about 38 episodes before it got canceled. Yes, I know, when I was a kid, I was a full-on producer. I had to make tough decisions when to cancel something, because it wasn't doing as well as I expected. Bionicle at the time, it just got brought back, And I remember hearing about Bionicle when I was a kid, but I never really got into it, so I did some research, and I fell in love with the whole entire series. So that's why when the new Bionicle sets came out in 2015, I got some, and I made my own MOCs, which, for those of you who don't know, is a Lego term called make my own creation. My own creation, that's what it was. And yeah, I made these two out of... And the funny story with his name is, basically, he's made out of parts from two Bionicles called Lee-Ha, or not Lee-Ha, Lee-Wa and Onuwa. So I took the first part of Lee-Wa and then Onuwa, and I called him Lee-Ha. So yeah, that's how he got his name. Pretty funny, huh? But yeah, that's basically about it. And I remember I showed one of my friends, my real life friends, to this day still, the first episode. He really liked it, and I decided to keep making more. But eventually, I got stale of it, and it got canceled. So yeah, over time, this series disappeared. I began feeling nostalgic for something, and I'm pretty sure you all know what that is. And yep, it was Thomas and Friends. I remember thinking about, yeah, you know what, let me see how the series is doing nowadays. And I went back on YouTube and I did some research and whatnot, and the first thing I watched was Soda's Legend of the Lost Treasure, and I was blown away. That is my favorite Thomas and Friends movie to date. Even better than The Adventure Begins, which I know that's a lot of people's favorite, but my favorite was Soda's Legend of the Lost Treasure. And I loved it so much. I love Sailor John, I love Skiff, I love Ryan, although I need to get a Ryan model later. But anyway, I just loved it in general. I loved the whole plot of it, I loved everything, I loved the villains, and I just really liked it. And so I thought, you know what, I should get back into this series. And so I decided to think about what toy line I should get back into, and well, since I always wanted to do Wooden Railway, I decided to let's go get some new Wooden Railway engines. And basically, at the same time that I got back, there were these new 70th anniversary Thomas and Friends Wooden Railway models, and I was like, yeah, sure. And so as you see here, I got this. Like, he had two names. This model right here was like Introducing James or Origins James. Yep, thought so. But anyway, I got back to Thomas, bought some track, and since I was older and more responsible with my money, I was able to afford it. Because back then I wasn't able to. Because if I got $50 on Christmas, I would spend it like the next day. But when I got older, when I got $50, I knew that you should save up and maybe wait until you find something that you really want instead of just buying something the next day and then throwing it away like 3 weeks later. So yeah. And also, it was around Christmas when I got back into Thomas, so it was even better, because then I could get Thomas Wooden Railway and whatnot, and that's what I did. And so I made a couple videos with the Wooden Railway engines called Train Crew, and at the time I was making this series, it wasn't doing too well, because everyone was subscribed to my channel for the Bionicles, the Transformers, and whatnot. And so I was after getting into the Thomas Wooden Railway, I kind of felt bored of it, as it was so much money, and it was basically the same thing as a take and play, only made out of wood. And I know some people got into it, and I respect that, Thomas Wooden Railway, Mr. MPS, and I enjoy that content and all, but I felt that the wooden railway just wasn't for me. I didn't like how simple it was. I wanted something more accurate to the show. And so I went back online and I'm like, oh yeah, Trackmaster. And I was going through YouTube and I go through this one video and I thought it was a Ramafool video and I clicked on it. For those of you who don't know, Ramafool was like the original, I guess you can say, Trackmaster, Thomas and Friends show. He made Trackmaster videos and I thought it was him, so I clicked on it and I'm watching it and I'm like, huh, he sounds a lot more younger than I remember. And I'm looking through and it was like the Trackmaster Thomas and Friends show, and I was wondering what's going on. This sounds so weird. What kind of channel is this? Who names their channel off of their show name? So, but I enjoyed it, so I commented, "Hey, great video" and whatnot. Then he commented back like minutes later, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." And then he was like talking about how this channel was just for his original videos and that his real #1 channel was the where. So I went there, subscribed to that channel and whatnot. And then we got to know more and more, and I found out that his name was Trainboy12. And it got to the point, where we're just chatting back and forth. And I remember it was going well, everything's great. And then, bam, I went on YouTube one day, and I'm going through my videos, and I see copyright notices on like 30 of them. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the end for me. And Trainboy12 at the time, which is still one of my great YouTube friends, he was doing live streams quite a bit. He doesn't do as much as he does maybe a couple months ago, years ago, I don't know. But I remember on one live stream I announced that I was deleting my channel, and that actually did happen, and that channel is now gone. Obliterated. It ain't coming back. And I'm after deleting it and starting a new one, which is this one actually. So this one is actually my second YouTube channel, and at my old channel, the name was Low for Machines, and so for this one I decided maybe Low for Machines with a Z at the end of it, which changed to what you know now, Low for Machines, but with the 4 being the actual word for. So yeah, I made this new channel and I got a fresh start, because it wasn't just Bionicle videos and then just changed to train videos. Instead, for this one, it was train videos from the beginning. So I thought that was a refreshing start, and I could reboot my entire series and whatnot, and it was pretty fun rebooting the series. And I guess I should probably change it back to this, which, if you don't get it, it's a 0 and then a 1 to show off my 1-year anniversary. Ha 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 ha. So genius. And so I decided to find a cheap. Oh yeah, as I was about to get into Trackmaster, but then I took a look at the new Trackmaster Revolution, and it was definitely a downgrade to what they used to have. So I decided to go with at the time it was Take and Play with the wooden magnets, which I didn't mind too much. But then they changed it to Adventures, and I definitely prefer Adventures. At first, I was really hesitant, but after I got one, I was pretty happy with it, and I made my new series. Oh, wait, I totally forgot the origins of Take and Play Thomas Adventures, which actually, I was watching one of Trainboy12's videos, and it was about Take and Playville, and I thought that was like the most genius idea in the world, like a whole island of just Take and Play engines. And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, can I use that name? And he goes, oh yeah, sure. And I call it Take and Playville, and this is about these Take and Play engines which broke fourth wall jokes and whatnot. They were just about a comedy show, not realistic. So when it came to my new one, I was like, you know what, maybe I don't want to take someone else's name and then it looks like I'm just copying them. So I decided to turn it to Take and Play Thomas Adventures, which is a series you know now. And then I wanted to make my series more realistic, and so I decided to, for season 2, which all of you probably know, it's a very serious series about basically these 2 mainline engines and Gordon coming back, and basically Thomas has to get him back. I'm not spoiling too much for you, just giving you the basics on it. And basically, from there, I had this channel, and it's grown quite a bit, honestly. It's 95 subscribers. That's a lot more than I had my last channel. And so, yeah, And I think that's basically the entire history of my Transformers, not Transformers, of my YouTube channel career. Oh, I do have a second channel called Trionical, which is about Legos and Transformers. So if you want to go over there, that's that's basically to do what my other hobbies or interests, which is Transformers and Legos. And I know Trainboy 12 likes Legos too. Not so much Transformers, but Legos is something that I think everyone likes. But anyway, uh, that's basically the basics of low floor machines and whatnot. And it's been a pretty fun journey. Although with the new Big World Big Adventures, that's going to be a huge question mark on the future of Thomas and Friends. But let's think of the positives, right? We got Edward out of there, who liked that old guy anyway, and Henry, who needs character development anyway. Let's see. Oh, Toby, one of the originals. He was just a square. So yeah, that's some of the positives right there. Definitely positives. I'm not tearing up on the inside, thinking about them when I go to sleep tonight, but definitely positives. Curse you, Philip. But anyway, I think that's about it. And yeah, so thanks for joining me for these last 2 years of my YouTube career, or technically 1 year now. But anyway, this is Low for Machines, and I love to laugh out loud. I love the number 4, and I hope we can go for another whole new year for a second year anniversary.